Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to the Art of the Feminine podcast. We are meeting today on November 11th, 2016, and we are going to discuss a whole bunch of things. And so I really welcome you, and thank you for joining me at this very, very powerful time on Earth. And as always, it's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be connecting with some of the really, really powerful, sacred souls that are joining us and that are making this connection. And so today we are going to look at the portal of 1111, and we're going to look at some of the energies that are governing the 1111. I called it today a stargate, and it is referred to as a stargate. And then we're also going to be looking at the super full moon that is occurring in Taurus at 22 degrees on November 14th. November 14th, 2016, which will be Monday here in the United States. And so it's so good to be here. And it's, as many of you know, this podcast has been a call and was an audio podcast for 4 years. And so I almost just forgot that that you could see me. And there's all kinds of things that I do when I'm on the phone that I don't do when you can see me, because it's kind of a different platform. And so if I start to go into those things, you'll know it. Anyway, the theme of our podcast today is lifting the veil of illusion in the world of form. Lifting the veil of illusion in the world of form. And as we get into talking more about Taurus and the archetype that represents Taurus, it will become very clear why we're talking about illusion in the same sentence with form and with the earth, with the goddess herself, and why we are at a really important time in our timeline. We are at a crucial time when we are beginning to sense very strongly that there is more to this reality than we have previously been told, but not only been told, than we've previously been able to sense, because we've had some blocks put on our senses, and the archetype for Taurus is the number 5, and in the sacred archetypes, it's the Hierophant. So the number 5 is a key number in what we're going to be talking about today. The number 5 can represent the inversion of our spiritual energy, or it can represent the ascent of our spiritual energy. And as we look at that archetype, it'll become more clear why that is so. And so it's a big week. It was a big week here in the United States, but not only in the United States, all over the world. The whole world is affected by watching what we are experiencing here in the US. We just had an election cycle, and we have a new president-elect, Donald Trump. And for many people, that was a very emotional. For some people, for half the people, it was an emotional victory, and for others, it was an emotional. I don't know if defeat is the word, but we'll say defeat, because if you didn't want Donald Trump to win, there was a defeat. He won, and he is our new president-elect. And so we're going to look at the election results, and we're going to look at how that affects us and why the incoming supermoon in Taurus is so aligned with our power and with our ability to discern the outer reality, and our ability to not only to work it, to create our world by understanding the power that is within us. And so, so I know this was active, and I'm just going to say on a personal note that when I decided to, so the way I work when I do these podcasts is that I just kind of open and ask, well, you know, what is the theme for this? What and it just comes. And then, so then something comes in. And for this one, it was lifting the veil of illusion. Although I worked through there were some different energies that were layered upon that. And I worked through them to understand what exactly the wording would be, because the wording is important. But lifting the veil of illusion in the world of form is what finally came to me. Once that came to me, the stream that comes in was nonstop. And when I say nonstop, it was no matter if I was doing the dishes, if I was at the grocery store, if I was, you know, in a yoga class or writing, or whatever I was doing, the stream just kept coming in. It was not, and the way I do it is that I have, for these particular podcasts, I have this special white paper I use. And so I was just grabbing paper after paper to jot down the notes, because it opens a stream. And anyone who studied light body yoga with me knows that we talk about light body streaming and the way to access the very wisdom that we're going to talk about today. But once we align with something that is truth of our soul, and a message that our soul wants to bring in, the stream is open, and the stream starts to send us through the power of our word and through the power of images and symbols. We start to receive what it is that is going to make up the message that's coming through. And so for this one, it was nonstop. And so I have all these pages of notes written down that I haven't really had a chance to go through, but they're there, and they're being held in that container. And so I'm pretty sure that they're just going to come in as we start to talk. And so we will start by looking at the 1111 portal. So today is November 11th. It's 1111. And every year we pass over this day, we pass over this archetype. In 2011, it was a big one. It was 11-11-11, and that opened a special energy. But I did some writing about this today on my Facebook page, and what really was coming in was that 11 is the archetype of justice. And it's been sitting with me for a long time, but today in particular, there was a strong, it's a powerful day right now. We just had the election. We're getting ready to have this super moon. So 11-11 is right in between these two powerful, powerful events. 11-11 is an alignment, and it's an alignment that happens within us. And it's an alignment that a lot of people are attuned to, and they recognize it in their lives when they see it. We see, if you have a digital clock, you see it all the time. But some people just happen to catch it more than others. The 11-11 at this time is extra powerful because 11 is justice in the sacred archetypes, and 11 is the archetype of the zodiac sign Libra. The symbol of Libra is the scales and the weighing and balancing of all polarity, of everything that is in a polarity relationship with one another. So we'll say it's the scales that weigh our light and our dark. Justice is nothing more than a true equilibrium and a true balance, a balancing both within and without of these forces that govern our material world. And so right now we have Jupiter transiting Libra, and it went into Libra, I believe it was at the end of September, and so now it's starting its year-long stay in Libra. Jupiter as an archetype in the sacred tarot, it's the wheel of fortune, which means it expands things and it gives momentum to whatever it touches. It births and regenerates and keeps the flow going. It can, whatever it touches, it can expand the dark or it can expand the light. It just has the ability to kind of blow up and make big whatever it touches. Right now, it's transiting for a year in the sign of Libra. And so we know that on Earth, in the collective, we are going to get we're going to see justice showing itself in a way that we haven't seen in over 12 years. And so not only is Libra in justice, or justice, or Jupiter in Libra, but Pluto is in Capricorn and is squaring it, will be squaring it at the time of the super giant full moon in Taurus on Monday. And so we talked about the archetype Scorpio in the last podcast, in the first video podcast. And we talked all about personal power. We talked all about depth. We talked about sexuality. We talked about owning those things that lie deep within us that sometimes have gone unseen or unrealized by us. When we don't understand our power can run us in a way that is very unconscious, and it can manifest in the shadow side of our power rather than in the super creative, super enlightening, super fulfilling kind of power that we have when we enter the world knowing who we are, knowing what our gifts are, knowing how our body works, knowing how our mind works, knowing how to feel the power of what lies below, not only from our intellect, but from our heart, because the heart has a very special, very, very, very special relationship with the sign of Scorpio. The heart is really Taurus and Venus, and the heart is key 3 in the archetypes, the Empress. And when we talked about this in the last call, that the Empress works through the archetype 13 because it's 3 working through 1, and she works through Scorpio. So it's our heart that regenerates our dark power. And that is why, if we are engaging in the things that we think of as powerful, or sexuality, or controlling, or dominating, and we're not in the heart, then that power will eventually take us over, and it will eventually destroy us, just like the scorpion destroys itself when faced with turmoil and chaos of its own fear. If we run that kind of power and it's not connected to our heart, we experience eventually a crash and burn. And so we talked about Scorpio. We're now looking at this full moon is going to be on the axis with Scorpio. But back to 11/11. This is a big year. This is a big year, and I feel like we're going to talk a little bit more about the elections, but I think that's going to come in as we talk about the moon and the full moon. Justice is active right now, and it's active for all of us. So the biggest thing that we can do right now is to not go into fear. Fear and blame take away our ability to have real justice. And the reason for that is because justice is the one and the one. Justice is 11, and it's a mirror. And what we are creating within us is absolutely what we will mirror with in the physical world. And that's what this full moon is all about. So it's really important to stay in a state of equilibrium. Venus rules Taurus, and Venus rules Libra. So Venus is active in all of this right now, meaning the divine feminine has a say in what's going on right now. Do not go. And I'm speaking from I want to just say I'm speaking from the perspective of the work that I do. And so, as always, this is only one voice, but I'm going to speak through that voice and stream through that voice today. Do not allow yourself to go into fear. If the candidate that won was not your candidate, don't let yourself go into fear, and don't let yourself backpedal and regress into a version of the human being that doesn't really accomplish anything with actions that are destructive and that don't hold the quality of spiritual maturity. The best thing we can do right now, because this is a portal, so tying that back to the 11/11 portal, this time on Earth right now is absolutely, there is a magical portal open right now. And so many people that I've talked to that are really deep on this path are feeling that as well, and knowing not to be fooled by what you see in the physical world, because we create the physical world. And so to go into fear and to go into the superficial levels of reality, it doesn't do any good. And what happens is that most of the time when we're engaging in a mainstream movement, like most of the time when we're riding the wave of the emotional wave of whatever's happening in the mainstream, chances are we're connected to it, but it's more of the surface level of what's happening. The deeper truth is within, and it's within the heart. And the distraction is to find ourselves riding this wave that's just going to end to the same thing that we see over and over. This is a time to go beyond that and to use the power of emotions in a way that serves us, and in a way that sees the light that is beneath form. And so, trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about 1111. It's the mirror. Oh, it's a male focus. One is the male force. So with all those ones, it's the power of focus, and we need focus to find equilibrium. Equilibrium happens in our heart. When you see the goddess Mat, the Egyptian goddess Mat, and you see her with the scales in her heart, balance and equilibrium happens in the heart. We have to find the secrets of balance. We have to be in our heart. And use the male focus. So it's using the power of the mind with the power of the heart. The one is the magician. And so we've got 4 magicians calling in the high magic, the white magic. And so this is a time. Oh, also, okay, I guess I should look at my notes because there's a lot of good stuff. The super consciousness is what is being brought in this portal, in this stargate, to use that language of magic. Super consciousness is the limitless light, and it's super consciousness that comes in through the heart and begins to create. Super consciousness, the highest octave of our human divine consciousness, is looking for vehicles to work through. The power that is that has us in bondage on the earth right now, which we're going to talk about, and it's all coming. See, there's so much information, I can hardly keep it in place. And so it's looking for vehicles to work through. And so if you don't like what you're seeing in the outer world, stand back, take a step back, go into your sacred space and rewrite it. Rewrite it. Use your divine power. Super consciousness will find you. Super consciousness trumps everything. Super consciousness, if you've ever had a moment of connecting with it and watched everything around you, everything change, you know that super consciousness is the part of our being that knows what to do through intuition, and Taurus is the sign of intuition. And so this portal is a womb, and it's a womb in the heart that wants to birth this on earth. Okay, so here we are. We are now on 11/11 today. And so this is the point right between Tuesday. It's interesting. It's the election was Tuesday. This portal is Friday, and now we'll have the supermoon on Monday. It's a rare supermoon, and the moon has not been this close to the earth in 70 years. And so this Taurus full moon is in an earth sign and is going to be shining a light on the veils that we have placed. We have all these veils. They're everywhere. Everywhere there are so many layers of Well, starting with the densest, the layers of deception, the layers of the dense dark, the layers of deception, the layers of illusion, the layers of the 5 sensual appetites, the layers of the false light. There's layer after layer of veils placed upon this goddess planet that we live on. It's up to us to be able to penetrate those veils and see the truth that lies behind the veils. In all of the mystery schools, in all of the great teachings, we talk about the veil. And the veil is a very sacred, sacred symbol. And we're talking here about lifting the veil of the goddess. And I've done a lot of writing about lifting the veil of Venus. To be able to see that light is so sacred, because it's to see her undressed. It's the images of the goddess naked. To look upon the goddess in her bare form is a mighty, mighty privilege. To understand the light and the spirit and the fire of the Mother Holy Spirit is the ultimate pleasure that we can have on this earth. Most people, it's safe to say, on this planet, I would go into 99.99%, have not yet had that experience of understanding the dance of light, the dance of divine light that makes up this reality. And so our intellect and our emotions create the world that we live in. And so that's why understanding our own mind and our own thought processes and our own feelings is crucial to understanding how we create this world. And not only that, we cannot see the organic light. We cannot see the Christic light that is Venus in her earth body until we align with those things. We have to purify ourselves, and the moon in the sacred wisdom represents purity. The white of the moon represents purity, and she's the high priestess in the sacred tarot. There, we have to purify our consciousness in order to be able to, just like the moon receives the light of the sun, we have to be a pure mirror in order to allow that light to shine down upon us and then bounce out into the world of form. It's not that we're being punished to not see it. It's just that our vessel isn't prepared until we can do that work. So it becomes obvious the deeper we go into this, why this is so. All right, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say that I use, when I'm doing this work in this podcast, for those of you who are new, I work with what I call divine archetype astrology, and it's not traditional astrology, although I understand traditional astrology very well. But this is we're working with the archetypes, and one of the foundations of my work for many, many years is understanding the 22 archetypes that make up our divine consciousness. As they work through the major arcana, as they work through the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, as they work through the planets, the zodiac signs, all of it, through the laws of correspondence. This language and understanding this language speaks to our subconscious mind. It speaks to our heart. We decode the world we live in largely through the human brain and through the reptilian brain. Through that brain, we're not able to access very much of it. We're able to access, as we know, through all of through many of the different teachings, in the spectrum of light, we only have a limited availability to our human intellect and to our human brain. We're only able to see a certain percentage of the light, and some will say 10%. We're only able to make contact with 10% of what actually exists in our world. And an example of that is to understand that we can't really see feelings. Most of what we can't really see other people's thoughts until we can. Once we can see them, they're so obvious. Once we can see the auric field, once we awaken this, everything is right there. The world is communicating on so many different levels. The world that we're in right now is largely stuck and being more and more guided into technology that takes us away from our innate spiritual abilities to see with the light. And so that's what this full moon is about. This is coming in a very roundabout way. I'm feeling it. It's all so big. This Taurus full moon is big. 70, so 70 years it has been since we've seen a moon this close. It's at the very closest point that it can be in the elliptical cycle to Earth. 70 is the number of Ayin, the Hebrew letter Ayin. And those of you who have worked with me know Ayin is the letter of, in the archetypes, key 15, the devil, which is Capricorn, which is where Pluto sits right now. When Pluto will be squaring Jupiter and trining, almost trining the full moon in Taurus. So Ayin 70 represents vision. And the archetype, it's worth knowing this because this energy is trining this full moon. Capricorn is the archetype, the devil, key 15, and the planet is Saturn. And this archetype represents our bondage in form. And so we're going in through this archetype to look at Taurus in a moment. Key 15 teaches us that we are in bondage because we have not learned how to see. And as you can see in key 15, we see the number 5. There's that number 5, which represents the pentagram. The pentagram, in its Christic force, representing the Christ force, the point is facing upwards. And in the inverted paradigm, what some people would call the demonic, or the inverse of our true human self, it's flipped over, and the point is facing south. So it represents, Ayin is the Hebrew letter and the archetype for the devil, and it represents our bondage being created by our inability to see nature, to understand human beings, and to understand, to some extent, the mess that we're in. When we feel that we have no power, we're bound. You see in this archetype, you see the subconscious mind, the woman, the conscious mind, the male, chained to the cube. They're utterly chained to this cube of matter and the chain is loose around their neck. They don't realize that they could just lift it off and walk away because they're not seeing with the true perception what this world is. And so 70 years since we've had a moon this big. The moon is at 22. It's at 22 degrees Taurus. 22 is a master number. 22 represents the alpha and the omega. In the tarot, it's the Fool as key 0 and the Fool as key 22. It's the beginning and the end of the cycle. And it shows that we, at the beginning, we're innocent, and at the end, we return to our innocence. Innocence is the power because it's the ability to look upon the world with awe and to understand that beneath all of this crap that we see going on, there is pure magic and pure delight, and that the true forces that we all talk about in our religions and in our belief systems and in our philosophy and in our justice systems, the true light of the goddess is here now. All the power that ever was or ever will be is here in this very moment. It's not somewhere in the future. It's not when some major event comes to our planet and liberates us all, although that will be helpful. That will lift some of the burden off us because we have all these technologies being beamed at us that hinder our progress and make it very hard. But they make it hard especially for those who haven't started this process. Those who are on the path have a responsibility and an accountability to step it up. We are all under the archetype of bondage, but that doesn't let us off the hook. If we've seen the light, we are guided from within, from our own Aerophant, which is Taurus. Taurus is key 5, the Aerophant. And we have no way out. We have to own our responsibility of being creative, beautiful souls here to do whatever it is that we've come to do. We have to align with our individual creative power. We have to do our work with a capital W in order to do our part. There's all different kinds of people here right now. And if you're awake, you're here to do some work, and it's not easy, but you got to stay with it. You got to use that Taurus stubborn power and keep going. And that was one of the messages that came in, is that we have to keep going. We have to be stubborn enough to know that we will not give up. Once you reach that, and once you know that, nothing can get you down. We'll process human emotions. Yeah, maybe we don't like what we're seeing in the elections, but to tell you the truth, there is no such thing as external power. We place so much, we identify with it, and we give it power. Now, I know there's an argument to all of this. I do know that. But go beyond this, go into the poetry, go into the heart, and really know it. To think it is not enough. You have to know it. When you know it, the light comes in. And I'm just seeing all this light on my wall. It's so beautiful. I have her right here. I just have to say. And in this new space that I've been in, that I have my office, that I sit with the planet, I sit with Gaia, I sit with the goddess, and I look at her, and I talk to her, and I communicate with her from my heart very often. And I spend a lot of time with her. And I happen to be blessed. It was so divine. I happen to be blessed with this divine, sacred piece of land that has never had human beings walking on it. It's never had automobiles. It's pristine, and it's right in front of my window. And it's a preserved land space, and so the energy there and the animals there and everything there is so potent and so communicative. So when I'm talking about seeing the light in Sophia, the light in our planet, I'm talking from experience, that when we spend enough time with her and we go into our heart, what is revealed to us, what veils are lifted, are profound, and you will be moved in such a way. No person who says awful things about who's racist or who's any of these things, we don't even have to get into it, has any power over her, really. But there has to be enough of humanity aligned with this to understand, and then we can make changes, and we can make them in a very, very good way. All right, so I need to move this along, because I'm going to have my son walking in and video bombing me soon if I don't get this done. All right, so heart, and as you know, I've talked about this in many videos, heart is an anagram for earth. Spell it out. If you've never done so and you don't know, write it out, write out heart, and write out earth. They're the same thing. You can't know the earth unless you're in your heart. So go into it. Use the Empress, use Venus, and go into it. A human being is incomplete without the ability to see. If we can't see the light behind nature, we're incomplete. We haven't fully embodied the light of the soul. The soul gives us those gifts. And so there's a lot of soullessness in our world right now. And to tell you the truth, because there's so much mind control, and because there's so many agendas to keep humanity and block humanity down, there's a reason why people aren't awake. And on one level, you can't blame people, because they haven't seen it yet. You have to see it to know it. And then regardless of your religion, regardless of your race, regardless of your sexual orientation, that balance, that 1111, that goddess force that harmonizes, will come in and hold balance and begin to reorganize this planet, and it's happening now. So this moon is on the axis of Scorpio and Taurus. We talked all about Scorpio. It's in the last video. And so the sun will be in Scorpio and the moon will be in Taurus. All right. Yes. Okay. So this is a divine feminine moon. We have the moon is the high priestess until the moon goes dark and starts to wane. It's the high priestess doing the alchemy, and then the dark subconscious starts to take over, and that's when we have that's when we get all the dark gobbly gooblies coming out, and the dark on earth. That's why people at the full moon and right after, that's when the craziness starts. It's because then key 18 comes in and takes over. At first it's the high priestess. The moon, the full moon opens a portal. It's the most powerful alignment of the month for ritual, for initiation, for connecting with the higher octaves of yourself. At that moment that it aligns, super consciousness can come in. And the more work we've done to be pure in our love and in our light, the more we can receive. Has nothing to do with good or bad, just has to do with making our home, our vehicle, our auric field a good reflector of that light. The more clear water that there is, the more we can receive the light and beam the message from above that comes into the horizontal, because the message is coming in through the vertical, and as our mirror, our perfect clear mirror receives it, it goes out into the horizontal. This is a time to connect with our soul spirit, and it is a time to connect with our inner teacher. The Hierophant is Taurus, and it is the inner teacher, and that is the big message for this video and for this podcast. If you take one thing with you, it's that Taurus is the inner teacher. Although most people, if you listen to 100 podcasts, and there's tons of them out there on YouTube on this full moon in Taurus, most people are going to say sensual pleasures, the physical world, stability, stubbornness, what we create in the world. This is true, but there's another layer. And the next layer, the deep layer of understanding of Taurus, is that Taurus is the light behind the physical world. And it's Shin, it's a spirit, it's the Holy Spirit of life. If we can't see it, we don't know it's there. Then we stay at the very surface level. That's where we get addiction. That's where we get overly pleasure-seeking consciousness that just wants to indulge constantly in sexuality, in food, in materialism, in controlling others. Taurus can be stubborn. It's Scorpio where we see deep levels of control, and Scorpio works through Taurus. But none of these things are bad. It's just that when we're in the shadow of Taurus, and when we're in the shadow of Taurus also, we become very stubborn, and we refuse to budge, and we refuse to move. And that's how Taurus can be used to anchor us into only physical delights. Okay, so where this is going now is that Pluto is trining Taurus right now. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio and rules death and rebirth, transformation, the power of sexuality. We just had the new moon in Scorpio, and Pluto rules the final judgment, because it's our own relationship with our inner darker self that casts the last judgment upon ourselves. Nobody else does. It's our own self and our own behavior that casts that. Pluto is harmonizing with this moon. And so the light of Pluto is strong and it's good. It's good to be used for it. The truth of the matter is that Pluto is encouraging us to see the light now. We've got the High Priestess and the Empress, because Venus rules Taurus. So we've got the Empress and the High Priestess. These divine feminine broad squad is working overtime with a supermoon, like a supermoon. It's the biggest moon in 70 years to bring this light in. And so this is a divine feminine moment. The divine feminine is the heart, and all of us have a heart, both men and women. It's the womb. It's the real womb. Men can birth creations the same way as women when they go through their heart, and they do. But the heart is the true womb of creation. and informs all the other levels. And so this is about understanding and returning, especially with Jupiter in Libra, to that reality, to understanding this light. So, all right. So we're working with the Scorpio Taurus polarity at the axis. All right. Yes. The inner teacher, the Hierophant, is a voice, and Taurus, the gift of Taurus, is hearing and receiving. It's the second house, and it's no coincidence that the gift of Taurus is, through the Hierophant, is to receive the inner teacher and the inner knowledge, the wisdom. Each one of us has our own divine self within. And once we connect to it, that stream that we're talking about is on. It's on. The faucet is on, the stream. And we don't have to worry about anything, because that stream is our power. It can do anything. It's our inner voice. In order to hear it, though, we have to mute out some of the noise that we see in the world. It doesn't mean that we don't want to have an understanding of what's going on. It doesn't mean that we won't follow politics. It doesn't mean that we won't do social media. I love social media and love the fact that we can use technology to connect. It's only a representation of our inner teacher and who we really are and who we will know ourselves to be very, very soon. But it means that we have to discern and discriminate. We have to, when things are becoming impassioned and overly emotional and you feel that fear coming in, turn it off and step away. Go into your own inner teacher and celebrate the fact that you knew better to do so, and that is the place where you will receive your inspiration for your creative path and for your life, and you'll be told what to do. And there's Ayin, that letter, you'll be able to see clearly, and you'll be able to see the light shining behind all form. I'm going to share an personal experience I had. This just came to me. This happened a couple years ago. And I was at the grocery store, and I had been really working with heart, really, really working with the heart in the heart teachings. And I was just at this grocery store, and there was people everywhere. It was kind of buzzing that day. It might have been a holiday or a 3-day weekend or something. And I had an experience where all of a sudden, and I've never told anyone this, I had an experience where all of a sudden I saw everybody there as a heart. Like everybody, all of a sudden, I not only could see it with visual, but felt it and realized that everyone was heart energy, and that's the heart, because it's the heart, only the heart energy that can create. And I wanted to just get down on my knees and start crying at the grocery store. I felt so much love and so much reverence for what life really is and for humanity. And it's such a shame, you know, it's such a shame that because half the people who voted for Donald Trump and half the people who voted for Hillary Clinton believed that was their person. And it wasn't because, you know, this side's going to think these people are ignorant, this side's going to think these people are ignorant. It's really a battle between the right and left brain, which is still polarity. It's not even a real battle. The truth is that neither candidate represents the high state of the divine feminine or divine masculine. Neither candidate is approaching our world from a place of real wisdom. No offense. No offense, because we're all here to do our work and to do our job, but neither has come into the higher understanding. Now, perhaps some have come into the higher understanding through the dark path and inner channeling it in an inverted way. And we see that in politics a lot. We're going to talk about that more. But then there's so much anger and so many people hating each other and saying, you're ignorant, you're not educated, you know nothing, you're trash, you're this, you're that. And the truth is that gets us nowhere. Now, there is a process where we need to grieve, we need to get out, we need to get it out there. But it should be, we need to also learn how to come into maturity and to manage that, to manage it in an adult way and to channel it to creativity. I've had more people tell me that they had the deepest inspiration they've ever had once the election results were in, knowing that, hey, oh my God, it kind of shook people because so many people didn't want to see the results that came in, into saying, wow, I really need to be the best I can be right now. I need to do what it was I was going to do. I need to start that company, write that book, speak to this audience, teach my children, love my partner, go green in my house, eat good food, whatever it was. All of a sudden people wanted to do it. And that's why we get these wake-up calls. It's just so that we can understand that we had the power all along. Why does it take something so divisive to make us go that route? It's there. It's always there. But traditionally, when human beings are stuck, it takes a shakeup, and that's what we get. We create it. We get what we deserve, and that election is a representation of all of our powers, light and dark, both internal and external, working to bring about that drama that we just saw played out. We are meant to hear with our inner voice and start to do our work and start to create, be the artist, learn to see the light, and learn to connect with people. I guess the reason I wanted to tell that story is once you understand that everyone is beautiful, you can relate with people on that level. And when something makes you so angry, there are tricks that your inner teacher will teach you on what to do with that, how to process it, because there's a way to process it that will make you even more powerful. We all have our guidance when we're sounding our note, and when we are in our guidance that this Taurus full moon is asking us to be in, we harmonize with other people. It doesn't matter if I believe this and so believes the exact opposite. If they're in their inner teacher and I'm in my inner teacher, we have no need to go at it. We're each doing our part in the world, and we will create what it is that is meant to be created. We'll find our people, we'll magnetize to the people that we're meant to work with, and we'll work in the positive momentum. Now, the moon is exalted in Taurus, and so when the moon is in Taurus, she is at her best. Now, there's all kinds of beliefs about the moon and what it really is, but the archetype of the moon is the divine feminine, regardless of the moon being a satellite or the moon being a planet or a rock, whatever it is, or being hollow. The archetype of the moon is the divine feminine consciousness of the subconscious mind. It is the force that governs the ether and the Akash, that brings in, if you know the tree of life, which I work with that's another thing I want to say before we close out. If you understand how the moon works, she takes all of our thoughts and ideas and makes thought forms. She brings in all of the higher thought forms from the higher world, and she brings together the lower world and the higher world in this power, creating the lower astral plane and then being a portal into the higher astral plane. So there's all kinds of energy going on, and it's not her fault. There's the dark side and there's the light side. Human consciousness contains both. But the archetype of the moon is the archetype for creating. It's the archetype for bringing things into physical form. The moon brings in, the Venus and the moon work very closely together to bring spirit and the forces of nature and the great laws into this reality. So the moon is going to be in Taurus at 22. Taurus is one of the 4 heavenly creatures, the other operating out of Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. So it's very powerful. It's important to understand, and this is what I'll close on. And so we just followed the wisdom today. The main message here today is to really understand the inner teacher, understand the inner wisdom, and understand the divine light that's working through the earth. And don't be fooled by the density of this reality, because the more people that open up into that, the more people will be able to work and to work with the wisdom. And so what I wanted to say is that right now on Earth, there is a lot of talk about the inverted teachings and the teachings of symbolism, the teachings of the tree of life, the teachings of the sacred Kabbalistic teachings, the teachings of the archetypes have all been, they always get hijacked. Anything that's good, think about it. Anything that's beautiful and sacred and divine in this world gets taken and taken in the opposite direction. It's just the way it is in this world. And so be careful about feeling that anything that is working with the wisdom teachings is associated with evil. It has been, and I tell this to a lot of the people I work with, it has been used for negativity, and it can be used for negativity, but only to a certain extent, only in the layers of reality that we give it permission. So it can get third density consciousness, our reality. It can get the next level, the fourth level, the astral is informed a lot by the misuse of these things. But knowing that our ability to work with the language of the soul and the language of the subconscious mind, the alchemy of the goddess, is our divine birthright, and it done with a pure heart and with good intention. We are guided to understand, to unlock the keys of the laws of the cosmos, and to understand why, to answer some of our questions. Why are we here? Why do we think that we're all alone? Why do we feel bondage? Why do we see so much darkness on our planet and so much suffering on our planet? And all of those things can be revealed. So, all right. Yeah, I think I'm just going to say, as we close out, find the exact time. I don't have it with me, but of the full moon, and do something special. Treat yourself. Do something special, and you won't regret it. There's an opening for a lot of love and a lot of creativity and a lot of regeneration to come in. And so I thank you for being here. Yeah, it's a big time for all of us, and we can do it. We can do this. And so until next time, I send you a lot of love and many blessings. All right.